Hello, everyone. My name is Alannah Scardino, and I'm the project manager for She Changes the Game here at Up2Us Sports, wishing you a happy 50th anniversary of Title IX. So this milestone is one of celebration for all of the progress that has been made in the past 50 years, as well as a push to build momentum to ensure that everyone on the basis of sex is given equal opportunities to play sports. I'm here with Dr. Ahada McCummings, who is the Senior National Director of Organizational Learning and External Affairs here at Up2Us Sports. Thanks so much for chatting with me here today, Ahada.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Happy 50th anniversary, though you've not been around that long, but happy 50th Title IX anniversary. It is certainly it's a milestone and it's a momentous occasion. And so really excited that we're here. Certainly a lot more to do, but a lot has been accomplished.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to start out, Alannah, by talking to you because you are of the younger generation. Title IX was implemented when I was young, right? And so I grew up in the 70s in that era and in finding out about sports as a young girl in the 70s. But you're a baby. So tell me how, but certainly you know a lot about Title IX, right? This is what you love, this is your passion. And so I want to hear a little bit about how has it impacted you?
Yes, definitely. Title IX and all things gender equity in sports is definitely kind of my passion point. This is a little bit off topic, kind of on topic, but to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Title IX, I literally got a Title IX tattoo the other week. So Title IX is no doubt is something that has been really central to like my life and my passion points. But you're right, I'm on the younger side. So when I was growing up, I'm 23 years old. So I grew up born in 1999. A lot of those barriers to sports participation, for me, I didn't get to see them super up close. At least with not a lot of the sports that were predominantly girls participated in or predominantly co-ed. My parents basically threw me in every single YMCA sport and just saw what stuck. And I ended up, soccer was my sport always growing up. But as I kind of started to get more comfortable around sports, trying to kind of build more of an understanding about gender equity and the fact that everybody should have the opportunity to play. I can't remember specifically when I learned about Title IX, but I remember knowing that regardless of whatever opportunity I wanted to pursue, I should be allowed to do it. So when I got to my junior year of high school, I was kind of, my Title IX story starts, I guess, junior year of high school, when I was watching all of the football players line up to go to football practice. And football was my favorite sport at the time. I used to watch NFL games every single Sunday with my dad. It was like my I don't know, our ritual on the weekend, like so many families. And I remember feeling disappointed that I wasn't part of the football team or that it was something that seemed so far away from my realm of possibilities. But because I had in the back of my head that like, hey, I have just as much of a right to be able to play that sport as anyone. I went ahead and I made my effort and I ended up joining the boys varsity football team. And I was really, really grateful that all of the coaches of the football team were super, super duper supportive, except for one of them, which is a really interesting part of my story, because one of our coaches, our defensive coordinator, he did not want me on the team at all. He said, girls shouldn't be playing sports. Girls should not even be on the sidelines helping out. They don't, not sports, but football specifically. He said football was for boys and men. It was a men's game. But I kept showing up to workout sessions. I kept showing up to preseason. I kept showing up to our 4-hour camp sessions in August. And I think just through my hard work and determination, and also being empowered in the back of my mind, as far as like, well, he can't do anything about it. Like I have the right to play on this team, and I'm not going to let him tell me that I can't play on this team just because it hurts his feelings or whatever unjustified reason that he had. So being empowered with my knowledge about my rights in Title IX and being motivated through my love of the game, I ended up playing through my season, my senior year, and he pulled me to the side at the end and he said, actually, over the time that I had been on the team and showed my dedication and my hard work, I had changed his mind. And he said, I had shown him it doesn't really matter who you are. Anyone can play this game if you work hard enough. So all that is thanks to Title IX and my knowledge of it as going through high school and being empowered with that right to be able to play regardless of what I looked like. So yes, definitely Title IX has meant a lot to me in my experiences. And I'm really grateful to have never lived in a world without it. I'm really curious about you, Ahada, because you have so much experience in coaching. I know you coach women's volleyball and also in playing. And you're super involved in women's athletics and have been for so many years. And like you said, like if you growing up throughout late 70s and 80s, I would love to hear your perspective on and share your experiences as a coach of women's athletics, as well as an athlete, how you've seen opportunities or treatment of women athletes and coaches expand over the past several decades and how that treatment has evolved since Title IX kind of first started to build momentum.
Absolutely. Yeah. I again, like I said, I'm a baby of the 70s. And I was, a term that we used way back in the day. I'm kind of dating myself, but the term we used was I was a tomboy. I had two older brothers who played sports. They played football, they played baseball, ice hockey. And these were all sports that I knew how to play. Right. I was with them all the time. It was like if I wanted to be outside at that time, we were outside all day and all night. And if I wanted to hang out with the boys, I had to know how to play those sports. Right. But the sad thing was that those sports weren't offered for girls. And so that's where my play ended was, just kind of hanging out in the neighborhood with my brother and his friends playing football. Or, my brother played club baseball and traveled and I was the cheerleader on the side, knowing that I played probably just as well as many of the boys that were on his team. But again, it was my mom would say, hey, well, can she play? No, she can't play. There's no girls on the team. And that was the reality, right? And that's at a time when I knew nothing about Title IX. It had just been implemented. So, and again, I'm a kid, I know nothing about it. But that same narrative kind of ran throughout my life, right? In childhood, my brother went into ice hockey, and I could skate just as fast as he could. And that was the thing. But what I ended up going into was figure skating. And that's how I became a figure skater, was because he was playing hockey. The only other alternative for me was figure skating. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved it, competed in figure skating for years and years and years before I then got into volleyball. But that was the reality, that those sports were not offered, not just at the high school or college level, but on the rec level as well, on the youth level. And so you just sort of, as a kid, luckily you now know your rights, but back then we didn't. And so you just dealt with it and you played whenever you could play, on the side, but it certainly wasn't a part of a school program. And so that's what I saw. The older I became, the more involved in sports I became, the more we started to see girls playing sports. Now I started to see softball teams pop up, right? Where I'm like, wow, this is an all girls team. I could have been doing this, right? Started to see girls sort of trickling in. And again, maybe not an all girls hockey team when I was younger, but certainly girls starting to get involved in being allowed to play on teams. And so it's been slow, right? When you think about where we are today and how long it's been, the participation aspect is there. you've seen an increase in women participating in sports. Awesome. But what that's also done is it's made it a viable source of income for men to not only coach, but to be leaders in sports on the men's side and the women's side. So what we've seen is the numbers of, at one time when we first started playing, nobody wanted to coach girls and women, right? Men didn't want to do that until it started being seen how competitive we were and how competitive we could be. And that, again, it could be a viable source of income and revenue. So then it became that, okay, well, men can then coach as well. So then we started to see the numbers of coaches and the number of women in those leadership positions decreasing. I did my whole dissertation on the lack of female leaders in intercollegiate sports. And so that's real, right? So that's been the impact. That's what I've seen. I'm seeing more and more coaches. I think we'll get there. Now you're seeing more and more women coaches stepping in, and that's the pipeline for us, right? The reality is that there doesn't necessarily have to be a pipeline for men in sports, that they can step in at any point and say, I want to be an athletic administrator. I want to be a coach. I want to do whatever within the sports realm and have the opportunity to do that. However, for women, the pipeline is that at some point you had to play, at some point you had to have been an assistant coach, moved your way up to a head coach, moved your way. That's the pipeline for us. And so what we're seeing is more and more women inserting themselves in that pipeline. But what I would like to see is for women to be able to say, I can step in wherever I want to step in, the same as men do in the sports space, and be effective and be a leader.
Absolutely. And I think that brings up a really, really interesting point for the future and how we continue to develop our future coaches and leaders. Because this group of youth play in sports now that we've got, I think they'll be completely different kinds of leaders and coaches than that even I ever had or that you ever had. And here at Up2Us Sports, we talk a lot about the kind of like trickle down effects that placing, for example, more women coaches has on girls' sports programs. It's known that having women as role models and coaches in sports is one of the ways that we can keep girls playing sports, which is why we're prioritizing that through She Changes the Game. But can you speak more to the opposite effect that girls playing more sports will have on coaching in the future? And when more girls are able to participate in sports and stay in sports, how will that affect our next generation of coaches and leaders, both in and out of sports?
Yeah, I think that, what that does is it helps girls recognize that then is possible for them as well, right? Not only that I've got a coach that looks like me and understands me and knows what I'm going through, but I think what's happening is that we are now developing young girls who are coming out of their playing career, recognizing that I need to be that for someone else, right? I need to be that person. I want a little girl to look up to me the same way that I looked up to my woman coach and say, it's necessary for me to be there for her. And so that's what I think is where this is headed, right? That we've got more players, women athletes, who even in a time when they've not yet stepped into a coaching position or an administrative position, are seeing more and more girls looking for them, right? And that's powerful. That's powerful to play your sport. If you've played college sports, you've gone to games, and to see the little girls who come to your games and afterward want your, can I get your autograph? And I can, you know what I mean? And so that's the value. The value is that these little girls are seeing not just the players, but they're seeing women coaches. They're seeing athletic directors show up, you know what I mean, to games and announcing games and saying, hey, I'm the athletic director for this institution. And so that's what's so vitally important. The more we're seen, the more we're heard, the more we're valued, and the more people recognize that all of those stigmas that existed in the past, right, about whether women were capable or not, which is just absolutely absurd, whether we're capable or not of running programs, of coaching teams, of being leaders, is now starting to disseminate a little bit. And people understand, hopefully, that is an absolutely idiotic position to take, that we are not capable of being leaders in sports.
100%.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I'm so excited. Sometimes I wish I could jump forward like 20 or 30 years so I can see, just like take a peek into all the change that this next generation is going to make. And one of the things that I feel like is so important when I'm coaching or when I'm interacting as youth is making sure that they know what the standard should be. The standard shouldn't be that unequal treatment or unequal opportunities for boys and girls. And I think you described that. That was your standard growing up. That was you didn't know that you could push in a certain way because the standard was like the boys have more opportunities. You're gonna do whatever you have, but that's how it was. But now I make sure whenever I'm coaching, and I always say that this is what I think we should lead with as people who have the privilege of getting to work with youth, is making sure we're resetting that standard and reframing what youth expect for themselves, because that's what we have always deserved, and that's definitely what they deserve, and they should know that they deserve it.
Absolutely. Yeah, what I see and what I hope for the future of Title IX is that we continue to have women making decisions about women and about girls. That we continue to have women who are seated at the table to make sure that it's not just about numbers of girls and women participating, but it's that coaches are being paid equally, that the opportunities exist for women as well. And so that's the future. And like I said, I certainly think we'll get there. I certainly think it's been slower than what it needs to be, right? But that's always the case when it comes to, especially when you are the one who is in the minority, right? When you are the one who is being told no, progress can't come quick enough. And so I'm just hoping that we are now at a point in our lives and in history that no longer is a question. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what else we need to do as women to prove that we are worthy and that we should be here and that we should be leading, not just women's programs, but all programs.
Absolutely.
That we are not only capable of coaching women's teams, but we are capable if we want to. Now, of course, there are women who say, you know what, my focus is women and girls, and that's perfectly fine. But there are women who say, I am a coach, period, for men or for women. Mm-hmm. And I ought to have that same opportunity to step into that role in a men's program as I do in a women's program. And so that's what I see. I see, again, hopefully it doesn't take another 50 years for us to get there. Mm-hmm. But I see us getting to a point one day where that no longer matters, that the hiring processes no longer matter, that we're looking for a capable coach, we're looking for a capable leader, we're looking for capable players, and that includes women and girls.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'll add, I think for me, one of the biggest words when I think about how we can keep building momentum for Title IX and how we can keep ensuring that everybody, regardless of their gender, is receiving those same opportunities, that word for me is intentionality. So whether it's building more girls sports programs, getting more girls into your co-ed programs, placing more women coaches on the ground, that all comes down to being intentional. And I think about it, you can relate it even to the context of sports. So for me, I'm a soccer player. So if I'm playing soccer and I'm super strong with my right foot, I can shoot super strong. I'm super accurate. I can pass on a dime. My ball control is bananas. It's great. But if I can't do any of that with my left foot, that signals I need to intentionally start practicing with my left foot. I need to spend that extra time and that extra effort so I can get my left foot to where my right foot is. And that's how the most successful soccer players are made, with that intentional type of practice. So when we take a look at, for example, our sports programs and we realize, hey, there are no girls playing in our co-ed programs, or we don't have any programs that are just for girls, that might be a more comfortable environment for them to start getting involved. We need to be intentional, and we need to think, how can we make this space more inclusive? And that can look a whole bunch of different ways. It can be recognizing the barriers that girls face playing sports, whether it's social stigma or not having the right equipment, like simple as a sports bra or cleats that fit them the way they should, or not having a woman as a role model in sports that they can relate to, who can show them what's possible and who can make that environment more comfortable for them. And we need to eliminate those barriers. At the end of the day, you're absolutely right. Girls want these opportunities to play. Right now, there are 1 million less high school girls playing sports than boys in the United States. And so changing that and making sure our girls aren't missing out just because we don't have the programming and support for them, that's on us. So that's what we need to bring to the table. Is there anything else you would add on that? How we can start adjusting and making sure that it doesn't take another 50 years to get to the point where we want to be for everyone to have those equal opportunities?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we do, Alannah, is we say to our male counterparts that it's not just our job. It's not just a woman's job to make sure the opportunities are there. And there are plenty of men out there who are fighting the fight and in there and hiring and doing all those things for women as well. But I think it's time, right, for us to call out our male counterparts and say, you've got to do your job. You have to be intentional. Just like you said, you have to be intentional. If you don't have women in your programs, it is up to you to be intentional about ensuring that that occurs. And I think that if we can just continue to gain more male allies in this fight, that then it happens a little bit quicker. You know, they were slow to the punch these first 50 years, right? They were slow to the punch, but I think that they're getting there. And I think there are more and more. And again, the more that we have males, young boys, young men who are exposed to women who are coaching, women who are in leadership in sports, the more they are exposed to it, the more they see at a very young age what the capabilities are. And the more that idea and the stereotype about women and girls starts to go away. And so then again, generation after generation after generation, we get closer and closer and closer to people having these ideas. Again, I'm hoping that in the next 10 years, the generation after you, Alannah, that just like some of those beliefs that you came into this world with, that I deserve to play a sport, I deserve to be able to play sports just like boys do, that is what these younger people coming even after you, that it's not even a question, right? That it just exists for us. And I don't have to fight for it because it's here. So that's what I'm hoping, is that our counterparts see that it's just incumbent upon all of us really to ensure that there isn't a fight anymore. It doesn't have to be a fight, right? Anymore. That it's just a right
Yep.
for all of us.
Beautiful. Beautifully said, Ahada. I even, as you were speaking, I even was thinking that being an ally and being a good ally, you're absolutely right. This isn't just a women's issue. It is a human issue. And it's something that it shouldn't be a fight. It's everybody should have these equal opportunities. I even think about what the implications for Title IX can have on our transgender athletes, non-binary athletes. They still fall into the category of deserving to have that equal opportunity to play, the equal belonging in sports. And like you said, it's my biggest hope that it doesn't take another 50 years for everyone, regardless of who they are, to feel that belonging in sports. Because sports is really, it's something so human, and it's something that belongs with every human, in my opinion. Awesome. I think that's all of our time for today. Ahada, thank you so much for having this awesome conversation with me. It's such a fun way to celebrate the 50th anniversary. And it's really fired me up to keep building momentum, so that we can keep making the change that we want to see and keep being the change that we want to be. So thanks again, everyone, for listening. Ahada, do you have any other thoughts to close us out?
I don't. I think you said it perfectly. Just keep being that change that you want to see. And it's going to take all of us. So another 50 years. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, everyone.